Well, week one is finally in the books. What a crazy week it was. Thank you for watching Pro Football Today. I'm your host, Zach Simmons. Today we're going to be taking a look at this past week in the NFL, week one of 2019. So the big focus is on the AFC North. The AFC North. So looking at it, Pittsburgh, not a very good showing. Really, Big Ben couldn't really get a whole lot going on. It wasn't necessarily his fault. His receivers could not get open. Juju was having a hard time getting open against Stephon Gilmore, and Moncrief basically covered himself. Very poor showing for Pittsburgh. They weren't able to run it too much, so Connor wasn't able to get anything going either. Good showing by the Patriots, not good showing from Pittsburgh. The big story, though, is Lamar Jackson. Now, if you've seen my AFC North prediction video, you know that I went pretty hard against the Ravens. I may have been just a little too harsh on the Ravens. My main two reasons were their defense. The defense looks a little depleted. They lost Mosley. They lost Suggs. I was wondering if they could be able to replace those two players. And the defense did look pretty good. I was especially hard, though, on Lamar Jackson. I was not expecting him to throw the ball as much as he did and not run that much. Knowing Lamar, he's a running quarterback, or so I thought. So he's not going to get a lot of passing yards because he runs the ball. He runs the clock out a little bit more. So he doesn't have as much time to pass the football. Doesn't have that much time to get a lot of yards. But this week, holy cow, not what I was expecting. And Hollywood Brown had a good showing. A good amount of yards, only 4 receptions, so don't go too crazy in Hollywood Brown just yet. He only had 4 receptions. But what a good showing from Baltimore. But I'm still a little iffy on him, still a little cautious. The only reason is they did this against Miami, who might not be able to win a game this year. They did that against the Saints, against the Patriots, against the Chiefs. Okay, fine. I'll give you that. Lamar looks really good. I'll jump on the Lamar train. But this is Miami. I would hope he would have a good day against Miami. So I'm still a little cautious on him. The defense, we really haven't seen exactly how good they are because, once again, they were going against the Miami offense, who honestly might be the worst offense in the league. So, of course, they're going to look good. So right now, I'm ready to jump on that Ravens train, but I don't know just yet. If they went against a good playoff caliber team and did just that, did what they did this last week, then sure, I'll jump on the Ravens train. But this is Miami. The Patriots, they're going to do about the same thing as Miami. Every single team is going to do about the same thing as the Ravens did against Miami. So don't jump on the Ravens train just yet. There's still a lot of football to be played. We'll see exactly how good they are in the next couple weeks, especially this week in Arizona. Arizona's they were the worst team last year, sure. They had the worst record. Definitely the worst team. But Kyler Murray, man, when he turns it on, the entire team is on. He's shown to be a good team leader in just 1 week. Did a pretty good job against Detroit. Now, I know it's Detroit. Of course he had a good week against Detroit. But Detroit's not a bad team. They have a good, decent defense. Their offense is average. They're not a terrible team. They're not a great team. They're not a terrible team. And Kyler Murray in the second half turned it on. Did a fantastic job there. He should be a good challenge for the Baltimore defense. But the biggest surprise, it wasn't necessarily Lamar. It was how good the Bengals look. I had the Bengals in last place. I might have to change that now. They look absolutely amazing. Zach Taylor, maybe good enough to win Coach of the Year. It's a little too early to tell, but he's looking good. Andy Dalton is looking like he did his first couple years in the NFL. He looks fresh, looks good. And John Ross looking great out there. Sure, he had a few drops, but he had a few really, really good plays. He's showing that he's definitely worthy of being a first-round pick. So this Bengals offense, they look rejuvenated. You can tell that there might have been some problems with Marvin Lewis for a while now. That maybe they should have fired him a long time ago. But Zach Taylor, yeah, he's looking like he's the real deal. Now I know it's a week, but this is against Seattle. Seattle's a good team. Yes, their defense isn't as good as it used to be. They don't have Richard Sherman. They don't have Earl Thomas. But they still have KJ Wright. They still have Bobby Wagner. They're still a good defense. So the fact that Dalton can throw over 400 yards against this defense, that should say it all. The fact that they probably should have won that game says it all. So really, really good showing by the Bengals. And the Browns. The Browns were the Browns once again. Everyone's jumping on this hype train with the Browns. I said in the AFC North predictions video that I'm a little cautious with them. I did put number 2 because I figured their roster looks good enough. They should be able to be number 2, especially if the Ravens went down as I predicted. And so far, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But Pittsburgh might be the team that drops down. But still, Cleveland, they're not looking that good. Baker Mayfield completely lost that game for Cleveland. It's not so much Cleveland looks terrible, it's that Baker Mayfield may not be the quarterback that we thought he was. Threw 3 last-minute interceptions against the Titans. The Titans, now I know they have a couple of good defensive backs, but they're not one of the best defenses in the league. Cleveland just looks silly out there, especially Baker. So now the question is Baker the biggest tease in NFL history? We'll see how the season plays out and see if that's true, but we have to remember it's week 1. People are going to be a little rusty, especially now that a lot of teams don't play their starters in week 3. A lot of these teams are a little rusty. We saw that with the Bears Green Bay game on Thursday night, which was one of the worst games I've ever seen. I thought the Super Bowl this last year was bad. This is what happens when you don't play your starters at all in the preseason. They get a little rusty week 1, and the first 4 weeks basically become preseason for them. So we'll see if some of these teams can turn it on. Teams that I'm definitely looking at are the Bears, the Packers, and the Falcons. Those 3 teams in particular that were good last season. Now Atlanta, the record I don't think shows exactly how good they were. Their defense. They were basically playing their backup defense last year. So now that everyone's healthy, this is a good team, the Atlanta Falcons. And then Bears and Packers, 2 really good teams. But all 3 of them they didn't have it. A lot of that goes with they didn't play much in the preseason. In fact, the Bears and Packers stars, I know for sure, did not play at all in the preseason. So this is a trend that we probably won't see happen for much longer. Maybe not playing starters in week 3, but not playing any starters in the preseason. Yeah, it's not really working so well. It's going to cause the first few weeks of the NFL season to look terrible. Especially if they end up going against teams that have had their starters play in the preseason, that their starters are ready. That's one of the reasons Minnesota looks so good against Atlanta. But it's such a crazy, crazy week. Circling around the AFC North in particular. Just a crazy week. Looking outside, the Cardinals look pretty good against Detroit. Kyler Murray just could not get things working. Finally found what works in the Arizona Cardinals offense, which is pass it to Fitzgerald. Just give Fitzgerald the ball. Everything will work just fine from that point on. When you start spreading the wealth, get Fitzgerald the ball, Kirk the ball, Johnson the ball, things will work. The first half, he basically was just looking for Christian Kirk, and nothing was really working. Because Christian Kirk himself really isn't the best receiver. But when you give the ball to Fitzgerald and kind of spread the wealth a little bit more, things start to work out. And Fitzgerald, yeah, he's still that good. He is still that good. But also, there's one player in particular that I do not want to mention. We've heard news surrounding him for a long, long time. It's about time that we don't hear anything about him. So I want to circle around the team that he just left, the Oakland Raiders. And I know you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm going to try my best not to mention him by name because we've heard his name in the news and the media for so long. It'd be kind of nice to have a little bit of a break from hearing him. But look at the Oakland Raiders. They didn't need him one bit. They looked good against Denver. Specifically, their line. Their line looked amazing. Their offensive line. This defense, this Vic Fangio Denver defense, this is not a defense to mess around with. A really, really good defense. Just look at the defensive line. Derek Wolfe, Bradley Chubb, and Von Miller. This is a great, great defensive line. And don't get me started on those defensive backs either. But the fact that the Oakland Raiders had 2 backup linemen, 2 backup guards playing this game. They were missing their best linemen from last year. And still, Derek Carr had so much time, the line did nothing. The defensive line for the Broncos did nothing. What a good showing for this Oakland Raiders team. Showing they don't need a superstar receiver to win a game. They're looking really good. Their defense looks good as well. There's definitely some points they can work on, but it's a really good defense. The biggest shot to them, though, is losing Jonathan Abram for the season. That's gotta stink. He was such a big playmaker in that game. It sucks to lose both him and Gary and Conley in the same game. But Clelin Ferrell, when we heard his name on draft day, we were all surprised. Didn't even know who he was for the most part. But he actually had a pretty good game, I thought. Had a really good game against the Broncos. Decent offensive line. But this Raiders team, they might turn some heads this year. Who knows? The Chargers looked a little off against the Colts. The Colts I still have been a potential playoff team even without Andrew Luck. They got Jacoby Brissett. He's fine. But the Chargers, they end up taking a little bit of a dip. Who knows? The Raiders might be able to claim that wild card spot. I don't know. It's going to be tough without Abram and without Conley, that's for sure. That's my biggest worries about them. But it's not the receivers. Tyrell Williams, good, solid receiver. They will be just fine as long as Carr can do what he did this last game. As long as they have a good running back. When was the last time they had a running back like Josh Jacobs? I think the best running back they've had in a long time was Darren McFadden. Even then, he barely even played. So the fact that they got Josh Jacobs will help Derek Carr so much. And look at what the Lions able to do for Derek Carr. When Carr has that much time, he doesn't have to rush anything. He can find the wide open receiver and can make a play happen. We saw that Monday night. So watch out for the Raiders because they might be something this year. But I want to end this episode going over my power rankings, my top 5. So just looking this week, I'm trying not to look too much from last season, but seeing how these teams are built, how they looked in week 1. So these might be a little different from what you have as your top 5. So definitely leave some comments. I'd love to hear exactly what you have to say on them. But number 5, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're back. Their defense looked fantastic. 2 interceptions off of Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is an elite quarterback. So the fact they got 2 picks off of him, 4 sacks, a fumble recovery off of Devonta Freeman, and a block punt. This team's back. This is a good, solid defense. Watch out for the Vikings defense this year. If you have them in fantasy, great job picking them up. If they're open in your fantasy league, pick up Minnesota defense. Pick them up. They're going to be fantastic this year. Now, I know Kirk Cousins, statistically, he did not have a great game, under 100 yards passing. However, the defense was doing so good. Dalvin Cook was doing so good. They didn't need to pass the ball. It wasn't so much that Kirk Cousins was off. It was more that Dalvin Cook was on, the defense was on. Why risk passing it when you know for a fact you can get 10 yards from Dalvin Cook each attempt? So the Minnesota Vikings, they look phenomenal. That's where I have them at number 5. Now number 4. This one might be a little controversial. They are 0-1. Why in the world in the top 5? They're not even in the top 16 in the league, technically. But this team looked good on Monday night. I have the Houston Texans at number 4. Now, the fact that they won with 30 seconds left to go. Yes, they made some bad calls in the defense in that last 30 seconds. They played off the receivers, gave Breeze 2 attempts to gain 10 yards each, and was able then to set Will Lutz up for a 58-yard field goal. I get it. The defense, there wasn't a good read with the defense, but once again, it's a 58-yard field goal. I'm guessing Roman Cornell is thinking, let's get him to field goal range, but barely, and let's hope he misses that kick. Not a very good decision on his part, definitely, since Breeze doesn't usually throw it deep in that kind of situation. He's more of a game manager. It's just going to throw the ball near the sidelines for a 10-yard gain, just like what he did on Monday night. But overall, the Texans looked good. This is a really good defensive line by the Saints. I mean, they made Laremy Tunsil look silly out there. And the fact that Deshaun Watson, he was getting sacked, he was getting hit, but he didn't back down. He kept it going. He let a comeback happen. What a good showing by Deshaun Watson. What a good showing from Deshaun Watson. So that's why I have Houston number 4. This is a good team. They did that against a good team. They almost beat the Saints. The Saints are easily the top team in the NFC, and they beat them with 30 seconds left. Now, I know we have to count those 30 seconds. Saints won the game. However, I can't count that against Houston completely. There's 2 mistakes by Romeo Crennel. I can't bash the entire team for a coach's poor decision when the game's on the line. But overall, looking at the 59 minutes and 30 seconds worth of game time that the Texans had before that, they looked amazing. They looked amazing. I think they're worthy at number 4. Now, number 3, I have the team that beat them, the New Orleans Saints, the top team in the NFC. Saints look good. Now, Breeze looked a little rusty to start off with, but he showed in the second half he's just fine. He'll be just fine this year. For everyone saying he's regressing. No, he's not. If he has regressed, he's still a great quarterback, easily a top 10 quarterback in this league then. If he's not elite, then he's still going to be great, but I believe he's still an elite quarterback. He's not regressing. He'll be just fine. I know he threw a red zone pick, but once again, that's what happens when you rest your starters through preseason. I don't blame Breeze too much for that, especially how he turned it back on. He walked away from it, didn't do that again. He was fine. So if everyone's saying that he's regressing, if he's truly regressing, he shouldn't have won that game. He shouldn't have come back. He shouldn't have been able to read the defense at that point if he's truly regressed. He's not regressing. He's still an elite quarterback. Watch out for Drew Brees this season. Not just that, but look at their defensive line. Their defensive line is great. Sacked Deshaun Watson a good amount of times. Was able to stop Duke Johnson for the most part. Has some problems against Hyde, but they have a pretty good rush defense. But the thing I like the most, the biggest hit they had this free agency was losing Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram was such a good back. Everyone thinks of Alvin Kamara when they think of the Saints, but the reason Alvin Kamara became a thing was because of Mark Ingram. You have 2 different styles of running backs. Mark Ingram was able to pound down the middle, leaving some room for Kamara to go around to the outside and play more of the speed game. So without Mark Ingram, I don't think you have a very, very good, you still have a good Alvin Kamara, but not a great Alvin Kamara. So they needed someone to be that Mark Ingram. They went and grabbed Murray, who's definitely a downgrade. But Murray looked good. He's a different style of back. He's not a power back. He's more of a one-cut style of running back. But he looked good. He had a couple really good runs against the Houston defense. And this defense, once again, it's not as good as it used to be without Clowney. But they still have Merciless and they still have Watt. But I think one of the things you have to remember about the Saints team, something that's a little underrated. The Saints offensive line. J.J. Watt didn't get 1 tackle. He didn't get 1 pressure on the quarterback. Didn't have 1 hit. Didn't have 1 hit against the quarterback. What a good showing by the Saints offensive line. And this is what they need them to be. So the Saints, I think they're the top Super Bowl contender in the NFC. Watch out for the Saints this year. I think they can make the Super Bowl. Now, number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Their offense is amazing, probably the best offense in the league. Patrick Mahomes might be the best quarterback in the league right now, even over the great Tom Brady. But the problem is, the reason I have them number 2 and not number 1 is their defense isn't that great. It's good, but it's not exceptional. It's not the same Kansas City defense we saw a few years back that was great under Bob Sutton. This defense, they lost Dee Ford, they lost Justin Houston, they lost Eric Berry, they got Tyrann Mathieu, but for the most part, and they also got Frank Clark. But this isn't the same Kansas City Chiefs as the one that I fell in love with a few years back. They need some help. They need a couple more playmakers. They definitely need to focus more on defense when it comes to the draft and free agency in the next couple years. But this offense, it looks good. Yes, they lost Tyreek Hill for about a month and a half. but they have Mecole Hardman. They drafted him to be Tyreek Hill's replacement. They'll be fine. And Sammy Watkins, holy cow. What an exceptional showing from him. I mean, he was uncovered half the time. I'm not sure if that was so much the Jacksonville defense just deciding we're not going to cover him, or if that's more that he was so quick, no one could keep up with him. So this team, it's going to be a really good team. Second best team in the AFC. But the best team in the AFC, yes, it is still the New England Patriots. Tom Brady, yes, he's 42, but he's still playing like he's in his 20s. He's a great quarterback right now. I hate to say it. You know, we've always said this for so long. Tom Brady's good. I'm a little bored of it. I kind of want to move on from the Patriots like a lot of people, but I can't neglect the fact, which is he's still an exceptional quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Had a really good game against Pittsburgh. Their defense looked great. Stephon Gilmore was able to shut down Juju Smith-Schuster. They didn't even run double coverage. It was single coverage against them. And Juju still couldn't do anything. So watch out for New England Patriots. They might be able to win the AFC title once again. Now, I'm kind of in the same boat as a lot of people. I kind of hope not. But the Chiefs, I think their defense is going to be their main issue. They're not going to be able to really take them out. If Jacoby Brissett can turn into Andrew Luck, the Colts, I think, have the best shot. But there's still a lot of questions if Jacoby Brissett can do just that. He can probably make second place in the division, but can he be the winner they're hoping he's going to be? So that's why I have the Vikings, the Texans, the Saints, the Chiefs, the Patriots. Now, I bet you're thinking you left some teams out of there. Well, let me tell you why. Left the Eagles out. Why did I leave the Eagles out? They made a good comeback, didn't they? They were down 17-0. Carson Wentz turned on in the second half. He did a really good job. Yeah, you can say that, but the fact of the matter is, they were down 17-0 to the Washington Redskins. Why would I put someone in the top 5 who is down 17-0 to the Washington Redskins, to Case Keenum and the Washington Redskins? No, this team, the defense is okay. The offense is okay. The fact that Philly was losing to them in the beginning, yeah, they don't deserve to be in the top 5, I don't think. Carson Wentz looked good. If they don't do that again next week, if Carson Wentz can keep that on all 4 quarters, sure, I'll put him in the top 5. Now, I didn't put Baltimore in there either. Maybe saying I'm just hating on Baltimore once again. No, it's a fact that they win against Miami, the worst team. If they can do that against a playoff caliber team, sure, I'll put them in the top 5. Heck, I'll put them as the top team if they can do that against the Patriots or the Chiefs or the Saints. But they did that against Miami, the worst team in the league. I would hope they would crush the Miami Dolphins. If they have any hope of being in the playoffs again, I would hope they would crush them. So I don't have them in the top 5 because of that. If they did that against a top team, sure, I'll put them in the top 5. But it was Miami. It's hard to really see exactly how good they are when they're going against such a bad team. One of the worst teams we've seen in a long time. And that's after seeing the 0-16 Cleveland Browns. This team might be worse. And then taking a look at the Cowboys. Dak had a really good game. Showed that he deserves to get paid. Zeke had a decent game. But this was against the Giants once again. Not a great team. Not a great team. I know this is a division rival. It's a tough game. It always is. Cowboys, Giants. But it's still the Giants. They're still not a great team. I would hope Dallas would show up against them. Didn't hit the Rams either. Why? The Rams really... They had a very close game against Carolina. They almost lost against Carolina. They almost allowed a Carolina comeback. They just seemed a little irrelevant to me. Todd Gurley really wasn't there. Malcolm Brown looked great. 2 touchdowns from Malcolm Brown. But Goff had kind of an iffy game. So I can't really put the Rams up there in the top 5. But this next week, things may change. This is just from looking at one week. Next week, we'll take a look at 2 weeks. We'll have a little bit more of a full picture of what exactly we're expecting. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Now, I know you probably think I got those power rankings wrong. So if you think I got them wrong, let me know it. Post it in the comments. I want to see exactly what you had to say about it. We'll continue the conversation past this video. So thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day.